Got a few stories my mom told me a while ago. Thought you all might like it. She worked as a doctor for a very long time. She retired at 92. I don't want to say what specific branch because she was a big name player too. If you work in the field, you would know her name. She has been all over the world, mainly South America and Europe, and she said her favorite story was when she lived in the USSR for a whole year to train some doctors as part of some medical program. It was a while since I've heard these stories, so they might not be accurate entirely though. Be around 1955. Be my mom. She is about 22 years old when this happened. She just finished a 4-month Russian language program in the US. She steps off the plane in Moscow. She gets interrogated by the secret police. This will become a theme. She always described the interrogators as being nicer than she expected. She assumed that they did not want to do anything too big to an American. Anyways, after like 2 hours of questioning, they let her go. She steps out of the airplane, immediately falls in love with the area. Her and her doctor friends are allowed to wander the city for a while. KGB tour guides are nearby, but not too overbearing. Eventually, they get herded onto the bus and taken to the US Embassy. They answer questions and are given basic info in case something goes wrong. She says the Soviets were more worried than the Americans because, as they were told later, if they got hurt, killed, whatever, then it would be blamed on the guides. My mom gets introduced to her handler, a black American dude named Frank. She is genuinely shocked to meet another American. He has the thickest Southern accent she has ever heard. No time to question it. They have a bus ride to catch. She gets introduced to their Soviet counterparts. They are very polite and well-mannered. Apparently, my mom's secretary was really interested in one of the Belarusian doctors. She reminded him that this was not a dating show. She gets shown their new medical facility. She would later learn 90% of the job was dealing with hangovers or sending people off to deal with broken bones after doing stupid shit. She is assigned 2 Ukrainian doctors, Ivanka and Maria. Maria was a very quiet girl, apparently got traumatized after finding some unexploded ordnance from World War II and almost getting killed from it. Ivanka was just a massive asshole. Mom hated her, but she knew her shit. The doctor's office they were assigned to was not too bad. Definitely needed some work though. Mom gives Ivanka and Maria a basic quiz on how to prepare an office for patients. Maria just copies what Ivanka does, sanitizing beds, organizing tools, basic shit. Mom chuckles to herself as she finds an old copy of the Communist Manifesto in a cabinet. Has to stop because of the first patient coming in. Just a heads up, I did not become a doctor, so I'm just parroting what I remember. I don't actually have any medical knowledge. It's a Russian dude who broke his foot. He is absolutely howling with pain. My mom asks how he broke it. It's not lethal, but not great. Apparently, he broke it while hunting with his friends and fell down a ditch. Tells Ivanka to give him painkillers while Maria prepares the x-rays. The only x-ray machine is broken. Bliat. Basically has to guess. Gives him antibiotics and prepares to gauze it up. Asks Ivanka to get crutches. Ivanka tells Maria to go and get it. Maria sighs and goes to grab them. Mom sits and talks with the Russian guy while dealing with his foot. Apparently, he fought in Iran. He tells Mom stories about his service, about meeting Brits and Australians. Says the Brits were alright, but he hated Australians. Mom could not remember why when she was telling me the story. He is calm now, freaking out less. Mom talks about her time in Argentina and Chile, working to help doctors there. Maria returns with crutches. She teaches the Russian dude to walk on them. She does some paperwork and sends him on his way. She teaches Ivanka and Maria to make conversation while dealing with the patient to try and calm them down. Maria has opened up a bit. Maria and Mom do paperwork. Ivanka goes to smoke a cigarette. Apparently, Maria has never left the USSR, so she asks my mom tons of questions about her experiences. Frank walks in with a clipboard, asks to speak to my mother. Ruh-roh. She expects to get a dressing down for talking about the outside world. She liked Moscow, but she wasn't stupid. Instead, Frank just asked Mom about the US. Apparently, he immigrated to the USSR when he was 19 in the 1930s after getting tired of Jim Crow in the South. He was curious how the US was holding up. Talks about the shitty scene in the US, about how much he loved Soviet Russia, etc., etc. Mom talks about FDR, Truman, and Eisenhower and the stuff they have done. Frank is not impressed with any of them. She asked how he joined the KGB. Can't talk about it. Oh well, back to work. Fast forward about a month. Ivanka can basically do the job herself. Maria is making good progress. Maria is really good at talking to patients. Ivanka has increasingly begun chastising Maria for being too talkative. If it was something political, it would be reasonable, but Ivanka is just being an asshole. Mom figures Ivanka is good enough to do her own work, so she requests that she be given a duty station on her own. It's granted. Ivanka is much happier. Mom sees Maria breathe a sigh of relief and starts doing much better. Still incredibly nervous though. Mom invites Maria out to dinner to cheer her up. Maria warns her about Soviet restaurant quality. Mom thinks she's exaggerating. Damn near breaks down like twice in the restaurant. Decides to just buy food and cook. Copies a recipe she learned in El Salvador for pupusas. Maria is flabbergasted on how she can afford the ingredients. She is being paid an American wage in Soviet Russia. It's about 10 times as much. Mom was told not to go bragging about it for obvious reasons. Makes like 40 for the entire band of doctors. KGB guys are confused why they smell like they just got back from a Taco Bell. One has to leave the room laughing after one of my mom's doctors rants about the specifics of how to make proper pancakes. KGB general is not impressed. They get reassigned to Vladivostok. By the way, this has all been a precursor to the main X part. I had to build up because it's all essential and also funny. They get relocated to Vladivostok. Everyone hates it. They negotiate with the US company that sent them, so it's decided that they are only going to stay for about 2 more months instead of the normal amount of time. She works near some merchant section of the port treating sailors. She gets given an address for the clinic that they are supposed to head to. After about half an hour bus ride after getting off the plane, she finally makes it to the area. It's not there. The building is fucking missing. The drivers are fucking flabbergasted. It isn't cordoned off. It isn't destroyed or under repairs. It's gone. The driver makes a call. In like 10 minutes, about 50 cops turn up. Mom says she got questioned for about 5 hours in a nearby office. She mentioned that most of the intelligence guys that she talked to were usually calm but hard to read. But these ones were just as confused as they were. She is sent back to Moscow. Same work. Mom eventually meets back up with Maria. Maria is overjoyed. Mom takes to befriending Frank. After a few months, she decides to ask about the incident. Frank apparently heard about a bridge near Omsk when he first moved to the country that did the same thing. But the KGB really does not like when their officers talk about stuff like that. I'm wondering if anyone else has heard stories like that. Also, if anyone's curious, after the USSR collapsed, Maria came to the US and met up with my mom. Apparently, they still send each other letters. If there's any other questions, then I will be willing to answer them. Fuck it. I will tell the Walls of Jericho story. Walls of Jericho is a canyon in northern Alabama, located right on the state line between Alabama and Tennessee, and is formed from a river that turns into a waterfall at the top of the canyon. It's a beautiful place, but you have to hike down into the canyon to then hike up to the waterfall. It's honestly a mild hike. Going down is not too hard, but with a lot of gear and lazy people, it's pretty tiring. Before we hiked down, we decided to sleep near the cliff edge that drops off onto another cliff face, etc. We found a great spot that already had a fire pit dug out and a lot of good wood still in the pit. Like someone had collected way more firewood than they needed and just left it there. This spot is barely off the road, and it took probably 10 minutes walking there, so we assume they just packed up and left. It's not super pertinent, but there was also a whole change of clothes, female, that we found in the fire pit. Anyway, spooky starts at night. We are sitting around the fire, drinking, smoking, talking, when we hear a scuffle in the little valley below us. The girls get scared when Josh starts talking about wild animals and how this and that totally lives in these woods. Whatever, man. We are people with weapons and tents. Nothing will fuck with us. And that night, it was like everything was just fucking with us. Sleeping arrangements leave Chris sleeping in my tent. No homo. And we are talking about what we would do if X showed up, or if we got attacked by Y, then we would do this. When this fucking weird-ass howl goes off in the valley below. It was like a mix of a person angrily crying out of frustration and a straight-up wolf howl. That was spooky, but the quiet afterwards was deafening. No more little yips from foxes, no more bugs chirping, no hoots, just dead silence. We are waiting when it howls again. As an onomatopoeia, it sounds like aroo or something. I don't know, I'm not a fucking wolf. Chris just says, "Man, that coyote sounds weird, but I've heard plenty of coyotes in my time, and that did not sound like a simple coyote." When I tell him this, he just says fuck it, grabs the flashlight, and goes out into the darkness, leaving me to fumble around for my knife when that same howl goes off again, and I hear Chris yell, "What the fuck is that?" I rolled out the tent to see Chris standing at the edge of the cliff, looking down into the valley with the light. As I'm walking up to him, he turns off the light and says, "Look down into the canyon and keep looking until I turn on the light." I did as he said, and when he turned on the light, all you could see were dozens upon dozens of sets of reflective eyes looking back at us. Now, I know that animals will watch you in the dark, and it's not uncommon to see this with spiders in the tall grass, but this was a cliff face with a clearing beneath it, and dear God, it got quiet. I'm saying so quiet, we could hear one of the couples trying to bang at the other end of camp. So quiet that when the next howl went off, we almost fell backwards off of the cliff. See, before, the howl was down in the canyon, but each one was getting progressively louder until the last one sounded like it was at the edge of the camp. It was so loud that the rest of the group either woke up or stopped fucking and started to pour out of their tents, asking who was yelling like a moron. I remember that question echoing in my head. Who the fuck is yelling? Not, what the fuck is that? Everyone is gathered around the smoldering fire, asking what the fuck is going on. Josh's dumbass says, "It's probably a coyote." Like, sure Josh. It's a coyote that sounds like a married man of 10 years found out his wife had been cheating on him for 11 years. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. I tell them about the progression. How the last one sounded like it was coming from right behind our camp, inside a field of chest-high grass. Everyone starts getting freaked out when Chris swings the flashlight over towards the grass. Just like before, the edge of the darkness is full of reflective eyes, much larger than down the cliff, except these are moving in and out of the light, as if they were fading back to pop out at another spot. Everyone collectively is like, "What the fuck is that shit?" when Josh gets the fantastic idea to throw a rock into the brush. All the eyes go back and the howls return, this time right on top of us, all around us, and we all instinctively got back to back, brandishing a variety of weapons, mainly machetes, but everything just stops and the normal sounds of nature return. We immediately rearranged our camp so all tents were next to each other and as close as they could possibly be, but it didn't seem like anyone wanted to sleep. Everyone was sorta wired from the noise, but we all went back to our tents and tried to sleep anyway. It wasn't until later that it got weird again. I had fallen asleep and had a dream about this creature attacking our camp, just fucking shit up in general, but I never saw the creature in my dream since it was always just barely out of sight. I get shaken awake by Chris, whose face was inches away from mine, but before I could say anything, he put his hand over my mouth and pointed outside the tent and cupped his ears. I really wish he had not woken me up. Outside, it sounded like something with heavy feet was dragging something else all around the perimeter of our tents, sighing and wheezing. It would stop at each tent and make a light scratching noise on each one. For those who don't know, light scratching on a tent door is directly the same as knocking on someone's door. It's a sign that says, hey, someone is out here, open up. And whatever was out there was doing it on each tent, circling around and around, still making those wheezing noises and knocking on everyone's tent. Chris motions towards me, pantomiming a slash across the back part of my tent, and I knew what he was trying to do. Cut through the tent instead of fumbling with the zipper to surprise whatever was out there. Being in a situation like that really makes you feel like drastic action is your best bet. I don't know why, but we tore through the back of my tent like it was butter. This time, instead of a howl, there was a lot of wheezing, like someone constantly out of breath. We both hit the 2 exits to camp, down the cliff and in towards the brush, and to this day, I still don't believe the shit I saw, and I only saw the back half. It was like a hunched over old lady, covered with tattered black cloth. One arm was out and looked like bone wrapped in paper skin. Behind it appeared to be either really dirty trash bags or some kind of tail it just dragged along behind it. We both started screaming as loud as we could, and something seemed to match our voices as the howling started up again, this time in the direction of the brush, right where the hag had been. This shit was piercing and long this time, and it ended up forcing us to cover our ears. It was more like an extended human scream. Everyone woke up again, scared again, and the decision to go home at dawn was quickly reached. We left that morning, but returned the next day with more stronger weapons. Man, we thought the night had been scary, and they say hindsight is 20/20, but when we returned to the same campsite, we found the whole place destroyed. The fire pit had been dug out and thrown over the cliff, a solid slab of concrete, by the way. All of the firewood was splintered, and the burnt change of clothes was fucking gone. The weirdest part was that you could see where our tents had been. You could see all of our footprints, but there was a long-ass groove in the dirt that went around the tent clearing and led directly into the bush. My computer died, so I had to switch to my phone. There's not much left of the story, but there was one last thing that felt very scary movie tier and legit creepy, so I will share that. When we were talking to other campers, there was one couple who was in the same horse pasture as us. They had been down in the valley when we were camping at the cliff's edge, and they had heard the same shit that we did. But the super creepy thing was what they said about the one night in between when we left and came back. That night, they said they heard an animal limping around the edge of their camp, and while they said they didn't think much of it, there was one huge detail that stood out. They said it must have been really windy because branches kept bumping into the tent and scratching it. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. Hey there, X. So, I've been lurking here for a few years now, and I've read a bunch of those Goatman/Skinwalker stories, and always thought they were cool, but never paid any mind to them. I live in New York City, but go to the woods in the outer counties, as well as some trips upstate, so I would think that my chances of actually encountering one is slim to none. Boy, was I wrong. I have lived here my whole life, and I've seen some weird shit, have almost been mugged a few times, had my encounters with crack addicts and such, but this was the first time I was genuinely fearing for my life. I doubt this isn't human, but I am still weirded out that this is what goes down in the tunnels. I am going to green text this shit, and forgive me if I'm slow, but strap in, because this is a doozy. Be me. I was heading home from work after closing the store at which I slave away. Typical shit. It's around 11 PM on a Sunday night, so I'm not too worried about my ride home. I decide to take the local train home and relax, since I don't have work the next morning, and I can sleep peacefully in the afternoon. I put in my headphones and take a fat rip off of my weed oil pen. Feels good, man. I go down the stairs to the subway tunnel. I see a homeless guy with his pants half off, passed out on the stairs. No biggie. I walk past him. No, don't go there. I hear him slur. I ignore him, thinking he's on crack or something. I get down to the platform. It's empty, just like it usually is. The train usually comes every 8 minutes or so at this time, but for some reason, the timer said 19. Oh well, just have to wait, I guess. About 5 minutes in, a sharp, rancid stench starts coming from the tunnel. At first, I think nothing of it, because nasty smells aren't an uncommon thing in the subway, but then I think about it again. It's not one of the typical stenches. It doesn't smell like literal shit, vomit, rat carcasses, or trash fire, so I start worrying. It's more metallic. It smelled like what blood tastes like, and had a hint of vomit to it. Oh shit, some homeless dude probably pissed on the third rail and exploded, I thought, but there was no sound. I hear a rumble. I think it's a train going in the opposite direction, but there was no PA announcement. I think nothing of it, and go back to enjoying my well-deserved high. I notice that there's another person on the platform now, but like really far away from me, so I'm like cool. This guy was off though. He was standing at the very far back end of the platform, the part that the back of the train touches, and the entrance is only towards the front. He was also small, about the height and width of a 5th grader. He is also facing me, and not the track like most people do, almost as if he's staring at me. I swore I saw his eyes. Oh fuck me, not another crackhead. I get my pocket knife out of my bag that I keep there for this exact reason. This thing has saved my skin twice, and I have never left my house without it after the second time. The train is coming down the tunnel, and I get up off the bench. I stand near where I think the door will stop. Right when I'm about to get in the car, I hear that homeless dude from before run up to the gate where the turnstiles are and bang his head into the metal bars, screaming, "No, no, 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 no." Fuck, okay. I look down the platform. The guy is still standing there, evidently still staring at me. I am super spooked, so I get on the train and make my way through the cars while the train is moving to the front car. The train is pretty desolate in the first 3 cars. I don't really care. I like being alone. I sit down and relax. I am next to the driver, so if something happens, I will just start banging on his door. I remember that dude at the platform. I start to feel really uncomfortable with that psycho on the same train as me. I get off at the next stop to take the next train so that I could rest easy. Before I continue, let me describe the station I got off at this time. I got off at 14th Street Union Square on the 6th train, which runs on Lexington Avenue. The station is a transfer stop for the Broadway line, and the L train, the train that all the hipsters take. The 6th train platform is curved and has certain sections of the edge that come out so that people do not fall on the track, and to make shit look cool. I wait for the train to leave, so I just sit on a bench because I am tired from work. As I take another hit from my pen, I am looking at the train squeaking and screeching away slowly, and then I see him again, in the last car. He was staring right at me. I tactically self-soil. He was wearing a hood, but I could see right into his eyes, sunken. He had deep black bags, but they were yellow where it should have been white, and his irises could have just been holes. I did not see a nose, but that's because I was too busy looking at that grin. That fucking grin. No teeth, just his mouth stretched from ear to ear, literally from ear to fucking ear. Human mouths do not stretch that far, man. The trains depart really fucking slowly from the stop because the turn radius on the train's axles is barely small enough for the tracks in this old station, so we get a long, lustful look at each other, and I swear, I have never wanted to shit my pants so bad. Also, remember how I said he looked small? He somehow grew. His forehead was at the top of the door window, and you have to be easily 6'5" in order to have your forehead that high up. The smell isn't there anymore. I check when the next train is coming. 5 minutes. Not bad. I start to relax. 3 minutes later, the smell returns. I think it just moved down the tunnel. The train comes, and the conductor waits a few seconds for the extenders from the platform to come out. Right before this happens, I hear almost a roar from right under where I was standing, and I see a hand, that's right, a fucking hand, grab onto the part that's supposed to come out. Nope, 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 nope. Getting the fuck out of here. I run to the Broadway line to take one of those trains because the Buey, yellow, and Lex, green lines intersect again further uptown. I get on the next uptown train that comes almost immediately and think about what the fuck just happened. The hand was not human colored. It had a bluish tint to it, and there were white hairs on the fingers with fingernails the length of the diameter of a nickel. The roar was not animal-like. Think of a really loud moan, but more primal. My current train gets to 34th Street, a few stops away from where I'm getting off. The train doors open. That fucking smell washes through the car. I am actually scared for my life. I have the knife in prime hand position, so I can flick it open in an instant. Battle station's ready. The doors start to close, and I hear someone running, accompanied by the sound of heavy breathing and a coat scuffling around. Here it comes, I think. The doors close last second, and that thing's face slams right into the door's window, eyes yellow and almost glowing, widest fucking mouth ever wide open, and its bluish skin pressed up, begging to get in. Its tongue is like 7 inches long and covered in a white, thick saliva. The conductor's dumbass thought it was a person trying to catch the train, so he fucking opens the door. God, is this how it ends, is what I am thinking. That thing lunges at me. I pull out my knife and jab it in the abdomen. Cold. This thing is cold. People who were on the train and saw the same shit that I saw are too afraid to move and just start screaming. Some random lady runs up and smacks that thing with her purse. It crumples up on the floor. It starts jittering, shaking, and then just stops and lays on the ground breathing. The old lady asks if I'm alright. I say I'm fine. I get off at the next stop with her and some other man and drag the body out. It's surprisingly not heavy. I walk up to a police officer who just so happened to be up the stairs. I bring him back to the spot where I left the lady, the man, and the passed out being. They are not there. What? The officer asks if I'm high, scoffs, and leaves. I am standing there. My feet are cold and my heart is sunken. How can 3 people just disappear in the Times Square subway stop? I decide not to pursue this. I take a cab home and smoke a fat blunt with my sister. I don't know how I can take the train from now on. I will post again if I see that fucker again. When this happened to me, I was at the beach at night with some of my friends. We are all just sitting there, chilling out, drinking some beer and stuff, just generally shooting the shit. I see something bobbing up and down in the water. Whatever, must be some kind of fish or whatever. This thing slowly gets closer and closer to us. It kinda looks like a head from where I'm sitting. I point this out to my friends just as a man pops up out of the water and starts walking towards us. Nope, nope, nope. My friends poker face it. We all try to act like nothing is happening. The man looks like a homeless guy. He has a long scraggly beard, matted hair. He is only wearing cargo shorts. He finally reaches us and asks us for a beer. Okay. He starts telling us this coked out story about how he's the second coming of Christ and shit. We play along. Oh, whoa, no way, really? So nice to meet you, sir, etc. He finishes the beer and thanks us. He reaches into his pocket. My bowels clench. No false moves. He pulls out a handful of figs and gives them to us. Well, that went better than expected. He tells us all to have a good night. This man just pulls a 180 and walks straight back into the water. I never see him resurface. He just went in the water and that was it. What the fuck just happened? No, we did not eat the figs, and yes, we left 10 minutes afterwards.